I'm your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today, I am pleased to be with some amazing guests who have really exemplified what it is to be balanced growth leaders in their own businesses. I'm going to start first by introducing to you Cris Cabanillas. Cris is actually the owner and president, CEO of Monterey Private Wealth. It's a fee-only wealth management firm located in the Central Coast town of Monterey, California. He has spent his whole career operating under a fiduciary model and particularly enjoys working with families, small business foundations. Cris and his wife, Shelly, have been married for 21 years, which is awesome. They have 3 daughters still in the home. Thank you, Cris, for being here. We'll let him on in just a second. Will Brown. Will is the owner of the Benefits Group. Will landed in the benefits by way of accounting. He transversed through the nebulous world of small business consulting and focused in on employee benefits, an area he felt that he lacked understanding and creativity. He lives in Nashville with his 3 energetic children, 11, 9, and 6, and his wife that does ghostwriting there on the side. Welcome to the show, Cris and Will. We appreciate having you both here with us today.
Hello. Great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I always like to let you guys tell a little bit, just quick, about how you got here. Tell us a little bit about your company and a little bit of your story, kind of fill in these details that the bio doesn't obviously hit on completely. I'm going to let Cris, if you would, why don't you go first and give us a little bit of a snapshot and idea into how you got into what you're doing today there in Monterey.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention after that introduction that I do have two business partners. So there's three owners of the company, and that's a big part of the story because there were a few people that were, brave enough to go out on a limb and start these companies, and I came on board kind of early in my career, and now I'm looking at almost 20 years now with this firm, and I've been blessed to transition into the role of being the leader of the firm, and there's a tremendous story there, but a lot of it's just been fun. I was the number 2 employee back in 2003. My wife and I had been married for maybe a couple of years and moved up from San Diego, met a gentleman that I just could not have asked for a better mentor, and just, saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And we worked together for a long, long time and helped him grow a company that, we have 12 people now, and it's a lot of fun. So I feel like I hit the lottery with what I'm doing and where I'm doing it, and just everything that's happened in my career. I could never have even predicted it.
That's awesome. I appreciate you mentioning that. And one thing we'll get into here on the show is that supportive spouse, which you brought up.
Yeah.
So I love that is, first out of your mouth is your business partners and your sweet wife that's helped you to grow this and have the time to be able to do it and energy. Yeah. And so great to have you on. Tell us a little bit about your background. And San Diego is a wonderful place. Monterey is just almost as beautiful, though. And I think you picked a sweet spot, man. So good for you guys. Will, I'm going to invite you on. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you're at today there in leading your company.
Well, it started in a little town in Stuart, Florida in 1970. No, I'm just kidding. So here's the deal. Not all of us are fortunate enough to have a clearly defined path. I'm one of those that kind of likes to learn, continual learning. And I'll save you the granular, but I went to school for accounting. I have received my master's of accountancy, sat for the CPA, went and worked for a big 4 at the time accounting firm called Deloitte & Touche. After going by way of audit, 90 hours a week, to a controllership role, assistant controllership role, I realized accounting wasn't for me. So I went by way of consulting, which I alluded to, small business consulting. And it's very nebulous, as I kind of alluded to. And it's, you're working with these entrepreneurs that are always in this whirlwind. And they're good at making widgets, but it's hard for them not only to focus, but it's hard to clearly define your objectives and clear-cut parameters. So I knew I had to niche it out and focus. And so I saw this area of benefits being a high impact, not only financially, it had an impact on the goodwill of the company, how it was received by incoming employees, and also there's an emotional impact. It makes a real difference in the lives of real people. And I saw that most brokers, I'm broad brush stroking here, but they were lazy and they were product peddlers. And so I said, there's a need here, and we're all in business to solve a need. So I focused on benefits, employee benefits. So I never grew up knowing or wanting to be in insurance, but I absolutely love what I do. If you spoke with someone and said, my wife's a ghostwriter, oh, that's so cool, and I do employee benefits, they're like, oh, it's great. So, but there is a true, when I speak to people after I'm talking to, whether it's a referral partner or a strategic partner, the one thing I hear over and over again is passion. And I think that's what makes an individual successful, if they have a passion for what they do. And I absolutely have a passion for employee benefits. So that's how I got here. Yeah.
Thanks, Will, and thank you, Cris, for giving us some background here. What's happening in your lives there, business-wise. I'm going to go ahead and maybe bounce back to Will a little bit and ask you a question about what's gotten you to where you're at. What has helped you to grow, scale this business? I understand the passion behind the benefits. What has been something that's really helped you? What a strength that you have? And then, Cris, I'm going to invite you on this conversation here too to give us your take. But Will, why don't you take it for a second?
Oh, you and I both know that's a loaded question. There's so many factors. So let me focus in on one, because we want to give people the. So I think number one is one of the biggest turning points. A lot of people have passion. A lot of people have mentors. I would say a first follower. I kind of go back to that. As John Maxwell says, your first follower. When folks are starting out, usually in an advisory role, maybe, or they're trying to start a business, it's usually them. And they try to do everything, right? The E-Myth, where they're doing all parts. And so until you can find that first follower that kind of helps you carry that passion, allows you to step away at some point and do some of the work on the bigger things of the business. So a first follower combined with surrounding yourself with good mentors, whether that be groups, individuals, family, people in your industry. I think those two things are imperative for a good foundation of growth. And I can elaborate, but I wanted to kind of punctuate the statement that you asked the question.
No, I love that. The E-Myth, Michael Gerber, he's fantastic. I was tutored by one of his first coaches and mentored in that way of systems and really being able to figure out what hat am I wearing, right? And how to be really productive. So I love that, and I appreciate you bringing that up, and mentors are super important. Cris, how about for you? What's helped your team, and your firm to really grow and scale? What would you put your finger on?
I think what we've learned along the way, and we set strategic goals, every year. Some are short term, some. I think what we've learned in our most recent casting of our goals is that we don't want our next opportunity to look like our last in terms of the way we grow. And I think a big part of that is learning how to say no. I know in my career, when you're early in your career, especially in this business and being an advisor, it's so easy to say yes. You want new clients, you want new relationships, you want to grow. So you're just constantly saying yes. Any opportunity to establish yourself, establish your reputation, your credibility, all those things. And you don't really say no to a whole lot. And when you are saying yes to something, you're ultimately saying no to something else. So I think it's just really, really being more intentional about saying yes to the right things, and no to good things, but really saying yes to the things of excellence and the things that are really pushing you in the right direction in terms of growth and opportunity.
This is important factor of being flexible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And malleable. As a leader, that's really important to be able to know, like, how do we continue to grow? Because one thing that worked 5 years ago is not working today. Like, for example, I know a lot of new advisors think that if they just go and talk to their family and friends and get referrals, that all of a sudden it's going to grow like it did in the 80s, and it's just not true. A lot of those things, knocking doors, they don't work anymore, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a website, you've got to have a presence, you've got to be
Right.
an influencer. So some of those things really are important. What I want to do now is bring you guys both on, and let's talk about where you're struggling with balanced growth. Is it on the balance side? Is it on the growth side? Is it both? I kind of want to dig deep into this aspect, because I think it's so important for other advisors to know you guys are doing really well. You have firms that are very successful, but what is it right now that you might be struggling with? Will, why don't we have you go first on this? Where in this equation of balanced growth would you say you struggle the most?
Yeah, when I answer that, thank you, Travis. When I'm going to back up though and just kind of echo what Cris said, I think he's absolutely right about defining who you are. I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but he's knowing who you are. In the beginning, yes, you have to take all the business typically that comes your way. We're not saying if you're just starting out, we know we've been there. But as you do grow, you need to define, people need to know who you are. And it needs to be, when I think of this, I think of, Will and the benefits group. So with growth, though, processes and organization and way of doing business are always, you're always stretching at the seams, right? Whether it's resources, capital resources, human resources, whatever it may be, even space, as far as there's always some resource that's being tried. So for us currently, the front end of the equation has been great. We're getting more and more referrals. We're good at what we do. We know who we are. We know what our customer looks like. We've prepared for growth. We've got pretty good processes. They're documented. We're growing the team. But what I find that we're missing on, and what I'm going to focus on 2023, is loving on our client on the back end. So we're really good on bringing them in, and I realize as we grow and we're getting more clients on the front end, I need to keep that same thing that they came to us for. I don't ever want to outgrow that passion that they allude to, that feeling. When you're setting up their group benefits and you're talking to them every day, it's a very personal thing. It's very intimate in that you're knowing all about it. They feel great about what's going on. And then, 3, 4, 5 months can come by. Yes, you can send a welcome box and all these, but I want to make sure that our cadence for regular engagement, it's like your NPS, your net promoter score. Your 10s are with you, your 3s, you know who they are, but your 7 and 8s, they'll leave you without you even knowing. Right? They won't say anything. Just one day they're onto a different agent. You didn't know why. So I want to be ahead of that. And if you reading a book called Giftology, creative ways to just engage people. So that's what I'm working on. To answer your question, it's going to be keep loving on the client, stay abreast of where they're at on the back end, and make sure they're using everything we have to offer. And I think we're all growing, we're all trying, but that's an area that's lacking and not as good as the front end process. So.
Yeah, and I know you're doing some marketing, some billboards, some social proofing. You've got some things out there on the front end, as you're saying. That's really bringing in a lot of great clients. But you mentioned a couple of things, and that is loving, as you said, on your client on the back end. And, as advisors, as business owners, as insurance professionals, wherever you are in this journey, there's a couple of things that I like to talk about. Roger Pine II talked about transformational business. And if we don't have a transformational business, it's likely someone else will come along and not just give a great service, which is really where financial services industry is, right, as a service, but they might give a great experience. If we're at experience, we actually are at a liability for someone else giving a transformational situation for our client. And then we lose them to that, other advisor, insurance agent, planner, mortgage officer, whoever it is. Because the transformation really is where business is going. So I find that interesting that you mentioned that. Also, too, giftology. I listened to that book literally in like an hour and a half, and we have a systematic, automated system where we send great gifts that people have never heard of and that really connect to the client, and we make it all about them. We don't make it about us, which I love. That's the whole giftology thing, right? So I like that you mentioned that. What's one thing, I'm going to pick on you one more time here, Will, what's one thing that you like to give that's a gift that is well received for your clients?
Really, okay, it's a loaded question because we have gift boxes that are customized and they're not personalized. That's why I want to prove that. But I can tell you the biggest gift is really just time. So I've actually asked my the person that's in charge of this client experience coordinator position to start scheduling more lunches with me and invite them to events that we're part of. So we have this local organization that we pay to be part of, and it's influencers and professionals in Nashville area, and we can invite our clients to things like that. So I think more face time to build that relationship. The relationship and the business, they form naturally on the front end because we're spending so much time together, but it can quickly wane, and that's what I want to keep up. So yes, I want to be more creative on gifts, but how do I even know that person to give a targeted gift is to spend more time with them. So that would be kind of my loaded answer.
No, I appreciate that. It's great. It's great to get that information, help craft a gift, even have a position for someone that's helping
Exactly.
to do just that. Excellent. Cris, I want to ask you, kind of back up on this as well. Where do you struggle? Is it on the balance side? Is it on the growth side? Talk to us about where would you say might be your biggest hiccups on either one?
I think the struggle that we found in growing is, and this follows kind of what Will was saying, of just having a consistency. Personally, in my career, we've gone from 2 people to as high as 13 people in our organization. So when there's 2 of us, it's so easy to deliver a consistent message or a consistent experience to your clients. But as we've grown, we've really seen what a challenge that can be in delivering that same consistency, that consistency of excellence. The things that are important to me in that client experience. We want to make sure that is at least shared, and then other people can make that unique experience based on their own personality. So the goal is not to be homogenous. The goal is to be excellent, incorporating all the different pieces and the diversity that we have. We have a wonderful group of people that have very different personalities, so we want to make space for that. We want to work towards those strengths. We want to not force somebody to do something that may be a weaker area. So as we've grown, we've really tried to find opportunities where we can collaborate. And with 12 people, collaborating is a lot harder than a few people. So it can be done. I think it probably takes some training to be able to do that. I went through a leadership training course about 3 years ago, and took away all these tools that were so timely in my transformation into leading this organization. So I consistently fall back on some of those things because I just I very, very rarely get time to really focus on the business. And I think we all have that part where we're so focused in the business that we rarely have the time to really focus on the business, and that's super important. So that consistency can happen, but it really needs to come from that collaboration and being open to not just sharing ideas, but also hearing others' ideas and incorporating those and honoring them, and really saying, yeah, I really value what you're doing. It may not be what I do well, but let's find some consistency in that so that we're delivering things where if 2 of our clients, this is kind of the image that we get, 2 of our clients are in the grocery store and they find out they're clients of the same firm, it would be devastating to hear them say like, oh, well, my person's not doing this. It's just, you want that same consistency between the client experience and, not just that, but also in centers of influence and really knowing who your target market is, or the people that you work with the most successfully.
Yeah. Yeah, great analogy. I mean, having two clients just meet at the grocery store and trying a conversation, heaven forbid they find out they're not getting the same quality of service.
Yeah.
And I know the team is really big for you.
Mhm.
You have grown through a team approach, and you really care about your team members, that they have balance, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that they are more productive when they are balanced, which the research backs up, by the way. It absolutely backs up. So I love talking to, balanced leaders like you and Will, who are really focused on trying to have that culture within the company. Where would you say you struggle with maybe the marketing or the advertising or the front end side of bringing in those new clients? I know you're mainly referral. What might be a struggle that you guys have as a firm to continually scale and grow without losing the sense of balance that your team has?
Mhm. Yeah, I think the struggle is, kind of goes back to that consistency of, finding out based on the individuals that advise, because that's kind of what it comes down to is, as much as we want to promote ourselves as this, this collaborative team, this ensemble, a lot of times our clients are more like, oh, Chris, that's my guy, or Hannah, that's the lady I work with. So we really want to try to uh, establish that connection between our group as a team, but also honoring each individual that's going to kind of lead that relationship, so that their personality is really what guides that relationship for the most part. So the way that we've done that in terms of marketing and trying to develop relationships in business is we went through a process a couple of years ago of creating our ideal client, our ideal client profile. And a lot of, a lot of companies are doing this. And I think for us, it was a great exercise, because what we did is we took everybody's kind of favorite uh, characteristics of their favorite clients, and we all have favorites. I mean, in terms of the ones that we know that are going to, refer people, or are just really going to value the work that we do. So we went through this process of identifying these characteristics and then creating this fictitious couple. And for us, it was a couple. We love working with families and individuals, and it often turns into other things. But we created this fictitious couple based on all of these different characteristics of our existing clients. So it's kind of like the unicorn, of clients. And this became this opportunity for us to look through a lens of these clients for every decision that we made. If we were going to do any kind of marketing, we gave this couple a name. We even found a picture of what this couple might look like, just to put some personality behind it, so that every decision that we make in the organization, we look through this lens and say, well, what would Carlos and Kathy think about this? Or maybe it's, more focused on Kathy's personality. I wonder what Kathy would think about this. Or, Carlos being, the business minded kind of entrepreneur in that relationship. How would he look, or, how would he receive this? So things like that really helped us as a group collaborate, and it was fun. We had a lot of fun just making this and creating this, story that was, it wasn't risky at all. It was just fun. We were just throwing out ideas, and everybody was, contributing. So it was a fun effort for us to be able to do that as a step toward really going after. And what we found is that as we created this, we've started attracting this. So it's amazing how that works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is part of a process that I actually help our clients with. So I'm loving this. I'm like hearing you preach, preach on, Chris. Like, this is so good. We have an ideal client profile. We follow that. We ask ourselves, how do this fit for them? Do we take on, clients who are not like that? No, like, we just work with who our ideal client is. We talk about the riches being in the niches. And, I know, Will, you're focused earlier about trying to help the clients who you already have, right? The ones that you're already nourished, and Cris using this balance of this team approach. So let's talk about this for a second. I think it's a great segue. How do you find this niche? What have you done? What are you doing to get there? And I know, Cris, you were talking about, so maybe I'll throw this back over to Will for a second, as all three of us get to kind of go back and forth on this. What is something that you've done or are doing right now, Will, to try to find this niche?
Well, it has been through referral. It's hard not to find them because there's so much need in the healthcare market right now. The costs are rising. There's such a need for creative thinkers, and people are good at their craft, you know. So first, identifying, like Cris said, who your client is. We know that we can help clients from as small as 2 to 200, but most of our clients lay in the 10 to 40 range, employee-wise. And I'm dealing even with the 80-man groups. Like we have a transportation company, a bus company that has 80 employees, or maybe 100, a little over 100 actually. But I'm dealing directly with the owner. So we also find that an engaged owner who cares about their folks, who's not just either an engaged owner or a C-suite level, who's cares about it, not and gives it the attention it deserves, rather than just like, yeah, put in the highest deductible possible, we don't care. So I think by identifying that, we show up at a lot of events, so it's a lot of relational. We've done social media and billboards and radio, but I'm finding that just being engaged at different events locally and going to industry events like SHRM for human resource management professionals. Those things where we get a one-on-one FaceTime where you could talk to that person and build that relationship, explain to them just briefly, not features and benefits, but yes, we can help. Here's why. You're a target client. So our approach has been less social media and advertising. We do that just to stay top of mind and stay relevant, but it's been more in-person events, as many as we can get in front of locally, and also expanding to more industry events or conferences.
Yeah, well, and now this is the time to do it, right? Everybody wants to be back at conferences. We want to be together. Yep. We want to learn from each other. We're tired of Zoom, although this is a great format to do, the online formats to get together. I think you've nailed that. Cris, you've talked to us about this process, which quite honestly reminds me of where I heard this from very first, which was Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. It sounds like a very, very, similar exercise that I love. I tell my clients to use it. How has this evolved? Where did you find your ideal client?
So where did we find them? Monterey is somewhat of a small community, and I'd say a large amount of our client base is here locally, and it's a unique city because it's a coastal community. There's also a very high population of military or retired military. There are, hospitality is a huge industry on the peninsula here. If you love golf, this is just kind of the mecca of golf. You got everything from Pebble Beach and the courses there to, throughout Monterey. And then, if you drive 15 miles east, you get to this agricultural community of Salinas, all in the same county, but just a very diverse community. So as a business, you have this challenge of being able to live in both communities and really relate to both communities. So we're trying to find ways to do that. So our ideal client, in Monterey might look a whole lot different than in Salinas, or a little bit north, we have a Cal State University. That's relatively new to the community, but you have this new progressive kind of community that's now made a stake here in what used to be a big Army base. So there's more of a youthful aspect in what used to be somewhat of an older community in Monterey. And that's just our local clients. We have clients all over the country. But the way that we've really identified how we navigate that and this kind of follows up with what Will was saying, is through events. And for our organization, it was something that we really shied away from for a long time because we didn't have anybody internally that was like, hey, let me lead this effort, because if you're going to do it, you want to do it right. So for us, we got to a point where, we just wanted to celebrate what was going on. We had some wonderful growth and had developed great relationships with people in the community. So we said, let's just throw a party. Let's just, really honor our clients and people in the area. But we were also very conscious of not doing it in an effort of, hey, look at us, we're spending a bunch of money to throw a party, just to show how great we are, And so after really thinking about it and collaborating as a group, we said, well, because there are so many resources here, why don't we do something that really raises some awareness, raises some money? How would that go if we actually threw a fundraiser? And instead of just inviting people to a party, said, hey, how would you feel about donating to this local cause? So we picked a local organization, not even an organization. It was really this particular need in the community. It's called the Fund for Homeless Women. That's what it is. That's something that is pretty visible in the community, and it's this fund that was established. It's not an organization. It's a fund that really distributes to all the local efforts. So it's even more of a collaboration. So we invited all of our clients, we invited all the centers of influence, all the business leaders, all of our friends and family, the whole staff, and we rented out this beautiful old restored barn that had just been kind of given a facelift and was new to the community. We invited this kind of folky, classical 3-piece band. And we had a party, and we sent out invitations, and we said, hey, we'd love to have you here. The recommended donation is $100 a person. 100% of the proceeds is going to go to the Fund for Homeless Women. And then this is what blew us away. We had people that wanted to be sponsors at the event. So the whole, cost was going to come out of our pocket. Next thing you know, we have law firms, accounting firms, and all these different businesses that just wanted to attach themselves to this, which took our costs down considerably, and kind of deepen that relationship with our centers of influence too, because they didn't have to organize the whole thing. They just essentially wrote a check and covered the cost of it. So it's just such a win-win. We ended up raising over $30,000 for this local organization. Presented them with a check and honored their leadership team. And it was so fun. And we did it one more time, and then COVID came to our lives. So
Sure.
Now we're kind of figuring out how to re-engage that effort and let that just be, part of our fabric as an organization to do something like this and have a goal of growing it too.
Yeah. I love that you're both, working on, events, the live things that are happening. We're doing some live events this year as well, but it's so great to hear what's working. What is working. When we look at the paid advertisements or the events, it's a little bit different sphere than, let's say, online, the social media. And a lot of social media, you've got to pay to play, but there's a very amazing missed opportunity for most. That's the organic growth.
Oh, yeah.
The organic growth that can happen. Obviously, writing a book, doing a podcast, having a show like this has really helped us to grow. What have you seen? Maybe other advisors or other business owners that have grown followings with organic substances like book, podcasts, etc. And have you tried these things? What are your thoughts on it? I'm just gonna let you guys jump in on this. Maybe Will, why don't you have at this at first? What's your thoughts on the organic process?
Yeah, absolutely. Love the idea. That's my second strategic objective for 2023 outside of loving on our clients better. I've been kind of disenchanted a little bit with this whole social media thing. I won't go into it. I'm sure we all have. Anybody out there that's run into someone that does social media, this broad blanket, kind of covering, I do this, this, and this. And we all know there's different types of present. There's people that can do video. There's people that can write copy. There's people that can plan the whole thing strategic. So once you filter through all that, what I've landed on is that what we're going to do and what I've seen work best is attractive selling, especially for us. Okay. It's a complex world. People don't need benefits right at that moment. I'm not going to catch a business owner on the way home and be like, hey, you need benefits? He's like, yes, I do, typically, right? But I've seen people, I've watched them on YouTube, just give quick with their camera, nothing fancy, snippets of some complex issue in there, whether it's for advisors, maybe investing year end, what to do with, assets, even HSA, FSA, benefits related questions, what's a deductible, whatever it is, just a quick digestible snippet. We're going to do more of those. You have to be consistent with it, but they don't have to be super professional. People like the reality, and we're going to put out information, and that's the attractive selling. So really when they think benefits, so when the time is needed, they say, oh, here's somebody that's answered a question of mine. That's what we're going to do.
It's the give, ask approach, right? And I think you're exactly right. Organic growth for us has been mostly LinkedIn, and a little bit of Facebook, some YouTube. But I highly recommend find one that is really where your ideal client is, right, Chris? Find where are they hanging out? And I know most business owners, LinkedIn is a place where I go to first because they're there. And we've done videos, we've done, just long form, and it just depends. Things change. People's, taste change. The algorithm for LinkedIn changes, and it does for every social media platform. But you're exactly right. What doesn't change is people really enjoy and they remember when you've been giving. So I like that approach, Will, and I'd like to see that on your approach for this coming year. Chris, how about for you? What has worked organically? What hasn't worked? Maybe what have you seen? Curious what your thoughts are on the organic growth side.
Yeah, we've tried so many things. Everything from social media. The challenge we've had there is really just having somebody that champions that within our organization, because it's one of those things that it's kind of here. It's here. I don't know if it's here for good. I feel like it. It's probably one of those things that probably will be in some way, but nobody particularly enjoys it. So it's something that we're trying to figure out. How do we do it? How do we do it well? Again, back to that just thought of, if you're not gonna do it well, don't do it. Just stop. So we figured out what we do well, and for us, it's really growing those relationships in the community. Centers of influence are, for us, our best referral source. If they really know what we do, they have a sense of who our ideal clients are. Those are the strongest. So we really try to build those relationships. We really try to make sure that they have the resources that they need to know the clients that are affected by the work that we're doing, but also just recognizing them as community members. We have an advisor in our office that, his wife pretty much runs the whole soccer program in Monterey. So if you think about it, all of those centers of influence that have families at home, at some point they're connecting, in the soccer community, either by trial and error, one of those methods. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is we've really tried to engage with those centers of influence and not just recognize them as professionals, but recognize them as community members and peers, and just people that we're doing life with, and seeing them as the whole individual rather than, that the person that fills that professional need for our client. And that just makes for such a strong referral source, and friendships develop from that. I mean, it just makes the whole effort, much more organic, way more laid back. There's no pressure on people to do things. It's just who we are in the community.
Yeah. Well, and that comes back to the community type event that you were running, the fact that your centers of influence were willing to be there, be sponsors, help out, like it just grew and grew. Goes back to this organic growth idea. Will, I know you had some thoughts that you wanted to share with us about social media as well. Kind of plug this back here on LinkedIn, and then I'm also wanting you to give us any other tips that you might have for those struggling business owners who are trying to keep balance while growing and scaling their business.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. First, with LinkedIn, I do want to say this. You mentioned LinkedIn, and every platform is different. But I will say to those of you out there, business owners or individual solopreneurs that are going to use LinkedIn, I tell this to my agents. This is one thing I found. When you engage on LinkedIn, like any relationship, I tell them first target. No, I wouldn't just broad mass hit everybody. They can sense that. So find customers that you're going to target and know why you're targeting them. And then as you follow them, engage with their stuff. Don't just know, hey, Chris, love seeing your event last night. I love working with companies that take a philanthropic approach or reach out in the community. Plus, I noticed you were, small business, Monterey Business of the Year, 2020. Great job. So you have real stuff. And then when you engage, again, to that give, ask. So you're not asking for any business. You're not doing anything. You're just getting your name up there. But you have a reason why you want to do business with these folks. And I think a lot of people just, like, and then ask, hey, would you like to have they're asking for time and they haven't given any value to earn that time yet. So I would say if you're using LinkedIn, use it appropriately. So the integrity of the platform can be kept up. We all get kind of spammed on there now too. But, know why you're targeting somebody and build that relationship first by commenting on their posts and then later ask. So I would give that. Man, any tips? There's a lot of them, but I would say set parameters. I mean, I'm going to give you little subtle things that maybe people won't mention. We all know the big stuff. I create a nice work environment. I think your work environment is very important, from the lighting to the way the furniture's set up. I get in early. I have my quiet time. I would suggest if you can get in earlier, and instead of hitting your day where you're just overwhelmed, if you can have your quiet time to ease into your day in the right headspace. I also, when I get home, I turn off my phone. I know everybody says that's not possible, but I imagine, my wife told me a long time ago when I was replying to texts later in the evening, she's like, you're giving people permission, you're setting that cadence. Yeah. And so ever since I've done that, people know now, and funny enough, all the business gets done here. And I tell them, look, after the kids go to bed and I'm, before I get in the shower and whatever, I'll check my phone if there's something that's an emergency. But there's never been any emergencies, and I let my family know that it's their time when I get home. So I think there has to be clearly defined boundaries and parameters. And if you're working tons of hours and feeling stressed, you may not be working efficiently. So that's secondly. And the third thing I would say to the entrepreneurs is be willing to delegate. You have processes, have people you can hand off to. As entrepreneurs, we try to do everything, and it's hard for us, for me, to hand things off and trust other people. So I spend the time, energy, and effort learning to code because I don't want to pay somebody to do a website. Just silly stuff like that I've done in the past. And so I would just say, hand it off, leverage your time. Do what you're the best at, right? We spend 80% of our time doing the stuff that we're like 20% good at. So anyway, those are the three things I would say.
Great tips on LinkedIn. Back to the ideal client, connect with ideal clients on LinkedIn, connect with the COIs of those ideal clients, be willing to give to them, help them out. But I love your other thoughts there too about boundaries, like a stress boundaries big time in achieving balance and the whole make time method, turning off the phone from work environments. You're exactly right. Neither of us working here are, strapped to some kind of emergency. There really are no emergencies we could not take care of. We have teams to delegate to in case there really are something that's urgent. that we could absolutely have others do as well to keep that balance. So I love that. Thank you, Will. Thank you for being
Yes.
on the show and for your contributions. Chris, love any tips you'd like to give to this audience, business owners, financial professionals in general, about to balance growth?
Yeah, and Will, that was gold. I mean, couldn't have summarized that better myself. I mean, that was
Thank you.
all those I completely echo. One thing that I would just throw out, and this is just kind of an action step, especially for business owners, because I think as we grow, it becomes harder and harder to really share ideas. We have ways of doing it, but to do it at all levels within the organization. And one thing that we did, 3 years ago, was we did an innovation tournament. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but it was essentially taking all of the staff. So we had 13 people or 12 people at the time. And we just said, all right, we want to grow. Just throw out a broad question of, we want to grow. What are some ideas of how we could grow? And that could be the question. And you come up with 12 ideas and you submit them anonymously. So there were 12 of us. So we started with 120 ideas. And nobody knew who they came with. We all voted on them through, Survey Monkey or one of those things. And I took it on as leading the effort. So we started with 120 ideas, voted on which ones were the top 3 of that, and then collaborated that. So we went from 120 ideas, and then as a group effort, each week we would narrow down that list of ideas. And some of the ideas, it was like low-hanging fruit. It's like, why do we need to vote on this? Why do we need to even think more about this? Let's just do it. But what was so fun was that it became this collaborative effort, because you didn't know where the idea came from. In fact, the end idea ended up being so much more than the initial idea, because it was this collaborative effort that built on this idea to really make it excellent. And we started looking at all the different angles of doing it, the financial ramifications, the cost analysis, the marketing efforts for it, so that we ended up with three ideas that became our strategic plan for that year. Of, this is what we're doing, and we had complete buy-in from the whole organization. And it became this balanced approach of going after the same 3 objectives. And it just started from one idea. And we don't have this hierarchy here, but we don't even know where it came from. Maybe it wasn't even from an advisor. Maybe it was just from somebody that is in more of an administrative role. So that I think is something it's doable. I think organizations are completely floored at the impact that it can have, just the camaraderie, all those things. So
I love that.
And it takes all the weight off the shoulders of leadership.
Yeah, which is part of that delegation Will was talking about.
Yes.
And I love that you guys are building on these ideas. And Chris, that you really are the CEO, like the leader of the company, very balanced, who's trying to grow with group input. And there's a lot to be said about including everyone in the process and getting ideas from everywhere. I know for me, a lot of what we do on Mondays, something we've integrated, is we have a big group lunch, and then everybody is welcome at the table, literally, and we talk about ideas, and we share from all parts of it, coming from service to sales, marketing, coaching, all the aspects of it that are working and what's not working. And sometimes we just get amazing ideas that we normally would have just stayed hidden and siloed and not been able to utilize. So what a great way to do it. Thank you both for being here on the show. I love this. I hope this has been fun for you guys, this interactive style of getting to know you in group and individually through the Balanced Growth show. If you've loved it, if you've been listening, you've been watching, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and stay up to the alerts on the YouTube. Also, subscribe, like the podcast, and share it with someone who may need to know a little bit more about delegation or organic growth or what's working on the inside of the team, as Cris and Will have been generous with their ideas and thoughts today. Thank you both. And everybody remember, balanced growth is all about living your life on purpose. Thank you very much.